The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, sending golden liquid and crystal fragments across Alessandro's Italian leather shoes. His face had drained of all color, transforming from smug satisfaction to pure terror in the span of 3 seconds. Behind him, his secretary, his mistress, stood frozen in her designer dress, the one I'd seen on the credit card statement last month. The one that cost more than our mortgage payment. "How did you?" he whispered, his voice barely audible over the jazz quartet he'd hired for her birthday celebration. The very band he'd told me we couldn't afford for our anniversary. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this all started, 3 months ago, when I still believed my husband was just forgetful, not deliberately cruel. My name is Veronica Blackstone, and at 35, I thought I had built the perfect life. A successful career as a forensic accountant, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and what I believed was a loving marriage to Marcus Blackstone, the man who'd swept me off my feet in college. We'd been together for 12 years, married for 10, and while the spark had dimmed lately, I attributed it to the normal evolution of a long-term relationship. Marcus worked as a senior partner at a prestigious law firm downtown. Long hours were part of the package, or so I'd accepted. When he missed dinner, I saved him a plate. When he worked weekends, I found ways to occupy myself. When he forgot small things like picking up milk or calling when he'd be late, I chalked it up to his demanding career. The first red flag I actively ignored came 6 months before our 10th anniversary. Marcus had started working closely with a new secretary, Isabella Reeves. Fresh out of college, bright-eyed, and eager to learn from one of the firm's most successful partners. When he mentioned her during dinner one night, describing her as refreshingly ambitious, something in my stomach tightened. "She reminds me of you when we first met," he'd said, not noticing how my fork paused midway to my mouth. That same drive, that hunger to prove yourself. I'd smiled and changed the subject, pushing down the unease. After all, I wasn't the jealous type. I had my own career, my own accomplishments. I didn't need to feel threatened by a 23-year-old secretary. As our anniversary approached, I started dropping hints. Nothing too obvious. Marcus always said he hated when I pressured him about plans. Just casual mentions of restaurants I'd like to try, or how the Maldives looked beautiful this time of year. I even circled the date on our kitchen calendar with a big red heart, writing 10 years, in block letters. 2 weeks before the date, I finally asked directly. We were having one of our rare dinners together, and I brought it up between bites of pasta. "So, I was thinking about our anniversary," I said, keeping my tone light. "Maybe we could do something special? 10 years is a big milestone." Marcus didn't even look up from his phone. Oh, right. When is that again?" My heart sank. "March 15th. 2 weeks from today." He typed something rapidly, then finally met my eyes. "Ah, that's going to be tough, Ronnie. We have a major case going to trial around then. I'll probably be pulling all-nighters. But surely you can take one evening off? We don't have to do anything elaborate. Just dinner somewhere nice." He sighed as if I'd asked him to climb Mount Everest. "Money's tight right now, you know that. The house repairs, the car payments. Maybe we can just do something simple at home." I nodded, swallowing my disappointment. Money wasn't actually tight. I managed our finances and knew exactly what we could afford. But I didn't want to argue. Sure, something simple sounds perfect. The next week, I threw myself into planning a romantic dinner at home. I researched recipes, ordered special wine, even bought new lingerie. I told myself it would be more meaningful than any restaurant. We'd cook together like we used to, laugh over shared memories, reconnect. Then, 3 days before our anniversary, everything changed. Marcus had left his home office door open while on a conference call. I was passing by with laundry when I heard him say, "No, the 15th is perfect. She'll love it." My heart leaped. Was he planning a surprise? Had his protests been a cover? "Make sure the champagne is Dom Perignon," he continued. "None of that Prosecco garbage. And the cake should be 3 tiers, chocolate, vanilla, and red velvet. Her favorites." I frowned. I hated red velvet cake. Always had. "The jazz quartet is confirmed?" "Excellent. And the photographer?" My confusion deepened. This sounded incredibly elaborate for someone claiming money was tight. Yes. I'll make sure she wears the red dress. The Versace one. She looks incredible in it." I didn't own a red Versace dress. The laundry basket slipped from my numb fingers, attracting Marcus's attention. He spun around, saw me in the doorway, and quickly ended the call. "Working on the Henderson case?" I asked, proud of how steady my voice sounded. Yeah, he said, already turning back to his computer. Boring stuff. Hey, I'll probably be late on Friday. Don't wait up. Friday, March 15th. Our anniversary. That night, I waited until Marcus was asleep before I did something I'd never done in 10 years of marriage. I went through his phone. What I found shattered my world and rebuilt it in the span of 30 minutes. Text messages with Isabella going back 5 months. Pictures of intimate dinners, weekend trips he'd claimed were work conferences, declarations of love that made my stomach turn. And the final nail in the coffin, receipts. So many receipts. The $30,000 party venue rental. The $5,000 catering order. The $3,000 Versace dress. The photographer, the band, the flowers. All for my darling Isabella's 24th birthday bash. On our anniversary, I sat on the bathroom floor until dawn, alternating between rage and despair. 10 years. 10 years of my life with a man who couldn't remember our anniversary but could plan an elaborate party for his mistress. Then I saw the credit card statement notification on his phone. He'd maxed out our joint credit card, the one I primarily used for household expenses, for this party. The audacity of using our shared money for his affair finally transformed my hurt into cold, calculating fury. I was a forensic accountant. I'd built my career on following paper trails and uncovering financial deceptions. It was time to use those skills for myself. The next morning, I called in sick to work and began my investigation. What I discovered over the next 48 hours was worse than just an affair. Marcus had been siphoning money from our joint accounts for months, hiding assets, and preparing for what looked suspiciously like an exit strategy. He'd even consulted with a divorce attorney, charging it to our credit card, the arrogant fool. But the most interesting discovery came when I actually read our prenuptial agreement for the first time in a decade. Marcus had insisted on a prenup before our wedding, presenting it as standard protection for both of us. Young and in love, I'd signed it without much scrutiny, trusting that the man I was marrying had our best interests at heart. Now, with older and wiser eyes, I read every line. And there, buried in Section 7, subsection C, was a clause that made me laugh out loud. In the event of infidelity, proven by documented evidence, the unfaithful party forfeits all rights to shared assets acquired during the marriage, including but not limited to real estate, investments, and business interests. Marcus, in his arrogance a decade ago, had been so certain I would be the one to stray. After all, he was the successful lawyer, the catch. He'd probably imagined I'd be tempted by someone at my accounting firm, giving him grounds to leave with everything. He'd never bothered to reread the document. I was certain of it. I spent the rest of that day, and the next preparing. I made copies of everything. Every receipt, every text message, every email. I consulted with Diane Morrison, the best divorce attorney in the city and, ironically, Marcus's rival from law school. She reviewed my evidence and the prenup with barely concealed glee. "This is ironclad, Veronica," she said, her smile sharp as a blade. "With this evidence and that prenup clause, he won't get a dime. In fact, he'll owe you alimony." On the morning of our anniversary, Marcus left early as always. He kissed my cheek absently, muttering something about a long day ahead. I smiled and wished him luck, then watched from the window as he drove away. The party was scheduled to start at 8 that evening at the Grand Whitmore Hotel's rooftop venue. I knew because I had all the details from his poorly hidden email confirmations. At 7:30, I stood in front of my mirror, applying the final touches of lipstick. I'd chosen my outfit carefully. A black sheath dress that meant business, paired with the diamond necklace Marcus had given me for our 5th anniversary. Back when he still remembered such dates. My hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and I'd opted for minimal jewelry beyond the necklace. This wasn't about looking beautiful. This was about looking like what I was, a woman collecting what was owed to her. Diane met me in the hotel lobby at 7:50, briefcase in hand and smile in place. "Ready?" she asked. 10 years ready," I replied. The elevator ride to the rooftop seemed endless. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. As the doors opened, I could hear the jazz quartet playing, the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. The space was decorated with thousands of white roses and twinkling lights. It was beautiful. It was expensive. It was paid for with my money. I spotted them immediately. Isabella, radiant in that red Versace dress, was holding court near the chocolate fountain. Marcus stood beside her, his hand possessively on her lower back as he laughed at something she'd said. He looked happy. carefree, younger than he'd looked in years. Veronica? I turned to find James Chun, one of Marcus's partners, staring at me in shock. Word of my arrival spread like wildfire through the crowd. The music didn't stop, but conversations did. A path cleared between me and the birthday couple. Marcus turned at the sudden silence. Our eyes met across the room, and I watched the color drain from his face. Isabella, blissfully unaware of who I was, looked confused at his reaction. I walked forward, Diane at my side, my heels clicking against the marble floor with metronomic precision. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. "Happy anniversary, darling," I said when I reached them, my voice carrying clearly across the now silent rooftop. 10 years. Though I see you found a different way to celebrate. Isabella's eyes widened as understanding dawned. She tried to step away from Marcus, but he seemed frozen in place. "Veronica," he started, his lawyer's mind already spinning for an explanation, an excuse, a way out. I held up a hand, silencing him. Then I turned to Isabella. "You must be the refreshingly ambitious secretary. I have to say, the dress looks lovely on you. The $3,000 price tag really shows." She flinched. "Good. I suppose I should thank you," I continued conversationally. "If you hadn't been so thorough in saving receipts for your boyfriend's accountant, I might have had a harder time documenting everything." I pulled out my phone, showing them the folder labeled evidence with over 500 items inside. Text messages, hotel receipts, credit card statements, even your little weekend getaway to Napa. All paid for with community property funds, of course. Marcus finally found his voice. "Ronnie, this isn't what it looks like." I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "Please, Marcus. You're a lawyer. You know better than to use that cliché." Diane stepped forward, all business. "Mr. Blackstone, I'm representing Mrs. Blackstone in what will be a very straightforward divorce proceeding. Given the overwhelming evidence of infidelity and financial malfeasance, combined with your rather comprehensive prenuptial agreement." She handed him a copy of the prenup with the relevant sections highlighted in bright red ink. I watched as he read it, possibly for the first time in a decade. His hand started shaking as he reached Section 7, subsection C. The champagne glass he'd been holding slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor. "How did you?" he whispered, his voice broken. "How did I what?" I asked. "How did I find out about your affair? Your secret credit cards? Your hidden bank accounts? Or how did I remember the prenup you made me sign? The one where you were so certain I'd be the cheater that you put in a clause that gives me everything if you strayed. The room was so quiet you could hear the city traffic 30 floors below. I'm a forensic accountant, Marcus. I follow money for a living. Did you really think I wouldn't notice $30,000 disappearing from our accounts? That I wouldn't wonder why you suddenly needed a secret credit card?" I turned to address the room at large, recognizing several of Marcus's colleagues and clients. "I apologize for interrupting the party. Please enjoy the champagne and the food. After all, I paid for it. Consider it my anniversary gift to myself." "Veronica, please." Marcus grabbed my arm. "Can we talk about this privately?" I looked down at his hand, then up at his face. The man I'd loved for 12 years was gone, replaced by this stranger who'd systematically betrayed me while sleeping in our bed. "We'll talk through our lawyers," I said, pulling free. "Oh, and Marcus? You'll want to start looking for a new place to live. The house is in my name now, per the prenup. I changed the locks this afternoon." As I turned to leave, Isabella finally spoke. "You can't just, this is my birthday." I paused, looking back at the girl who'd helped destroy my marriage. She was young, beautiful, and utterly clueless about what she'd gotten herself into. "Happy birthday, Isabella," I said with genuine pity. "Here's some free advice for your 24th year. When a man cheats with you, he'll cheat on you. But don't worry. In about 6 months, when the divorce is final and he realizes I got everything, he'll need someone to blame. That someone won't be himself." I walked back through the crowd, head high, Diane beside me. Behind us, I could hear Marcus's colleagues murmuring, Isabella crying, and the party dissolving into chaos. In the elevator, Diane turned to me with undisguised admiration. "That was magnificent." "That was necessary," I corrected, though I allowed myself a small smile. As we reached the lobby, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "You've ruined me." I typed back, "No, darling. You ruined yourself. I just did the accounting." 10 years of marriage ended with a shattered champagne glass and a prenup he'd never bothered to reread. But as I walked out of that hotel into the cool March evening, I felt lighter than I had in months. I'd lost a husband, but found my self-respect. And thanks to that beautiful prenup, I'd kept everything else. Sometimes the best anniversary gift is the truth, wrapped in legal documents and tied with a bright red bow.